Hey guys, hope you're having a good time at home. I wanted to recover. We talked about this in class yesterday, but yesterday was a little crazy. So I just wanted to walk through finding missing side lengths from right triangles using our trig ratios. So I've got the notes pulled up that you should already have, but I'm just going to walk through a few examples again, and you can watch the screen and you can see my little face if you want to see my face. So we talked a couple weeks ago about trig ratios. So we have the trig ratios of sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is always the ratio from the opposite to the hypotenuse. Now, opposite means across from. So if they're saying the sine of angle A, opposite is going to be what is directly across from angle A, which is going to be this little side A. And the hypotenuse, remember, is always across from the right angle. So the hypotenuse in both of these cases is going to be C. That's not going to change, so I'm going to label that with an H. As far as cosine uses adjacent, and adjacent means next to. So the adjacent side is always going to help make that angle. Okay, so if I walk through each of these here, the sine of angle A, so here's angle A, sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So here's opposite, and then of course we know C is the hypotenuse. So this is going to be A over C, if that makes sense. Okay, cosine, I'm just going to do all the A's here. Cosine of angle A would be what is adjacent to angle A, and that's going to be B right here, that little b, and that's over the hypotenuse, which is still C. And then tangent is always opposite over adjacent. So opposite of A is little a, and adjacent to angle A is little b. I forgot to write the cosine. I wrote it in the wrong spot. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. And so then we use the little mnemonic device, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, remember that SO is not the trig function itself. Sine is the trig function, but the O and the H help you remember that the ratio for that is opposite over hypotenuse. Same thing. Ka is not the trig ratio. Ka is the mnemonic device to help you remember that. Cosine is the ratio of adjacent to hypotenuse. And tangent, the TOA part, is for tangent, which helps you remember that tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so then if you jump down to these problems right here, utilizing what we have up top, our little mnemonic device of SOHCAHTOA, sine of angle A, so here's angle A, sine of angle A, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite of A is 5, and the hypotenuse is 13. Cosine of A, cosine means adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 12 to 13. And then tangent is always opposite over adjacent, so that will be 5 to 13. Okay, we'll do the same thing, but let's look at angle C. Okay, angle C is right here. Okay, so sine is still opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite of C is 12, but the hypotenuse is still 13. Okay, cosine of C, cosine, that's the ka part, so that's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent to C is this 5, so that's going to be 5 for adjacent, and the hypotenuse is 13. And then tangent is always opposite over adjacent. Opposite of C is 12, and then adjacent is 5. And of course, you would simplify those fractions if you could, okay? No, same thing happens down here on numbers 1 and 2, or sorry, 2 and 3, but you do have to find the missing side first. So don't forget about Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because that's going to help you find what that hypotenuse is, and then you can follow the same pathway that we just did on example 1. Okay, I think where some people might be getting stuck is here on actually finding the side lengths and using your calculator to do so. So I'm going to address that. So remember your mnemonic device, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, And so I'm going to take a look at where my angle is, okay, and the information that I have surrounding that angle, what those are in relation to the angle. So if my angle's here and I look at x, x is across from that angle, so x is in the opposite position, okay? The 19 is across from that right angle, which makes it the hypotenuse. So based on the fact that I have an O and I have an H, okay, I'm going to be using the trig function of sine, because the O and the H tell me that I'm using the SO part of my mnemonic device. So I'm going to be using sine. So I'm going to do the sine of the angle equals, always equals, and then the ratio. Remember, the ratio is those two letters, O and H, so the ratio is going to be x to 19. In order to solve for x, I'm going to multiply that 19 over, so it's going to be 19 sine of 28 equals x, and then this is what I'm going to type into my calculator. Okay, so let me switch to calculator app here. So I'm literally going to type in 19 sine of 28 and hit enter, and you can see your decimal value there. I'm in radians though, so I needed to switch. Okay, hold on just a second. 19 sine of 28. Okay, that's a better answer, so 8.9. Okay, so that's a good lesson though. If your calculator is in radians or you got 5.7 when you calculated that, you need to find your mode button somewhere. Now your calculator is not on your iPad, so it's going to look a little bit different. But you need to find where you can change from radians to degrees. Okay, so you definitely want to be in degree mode in this case. Okay, so, and you can see my answer varies quite a bit. So the answer on this one is 8.9. So x is 8.9. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so that's just one decimal place. Okay, same idea on this one. Let's go through another one. Here's my angle. I have what is across from it, which makes that opposite. I also have what is next to it, which makes this adjacent because it's not the hypotenuse. So I have an O and I have an A. So if you look at our little mnemonic device here, the O and the A go with the T for tangent. So I'm going to do tangent of the angle equals, the ratio is O to A, so opposite over adjacent. Same thing here, I'm going to multiply by 32 to get 32 tangent 41 equals x. I'm going to go to my calculator app here and type in 32 tangent of 41. Okay, and you get 27.8. So x is 27.8. Okay. All right, now let's go to number 8. So I noted this one as being a little bit different in class yesterday. So here's my angle, okay? I have what's across from it, so I have what is opposite of the angle. And then x is across from that right angle, so that's actually the hypotenuse, right? And so I have the O and I have the H, so if you look at our mnemonic device here, O and H leads us to use sine. Okay, so I'm going to be using sine here, sine of the angle equals, and then the ratio is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, opposite is 15, hypotenuse is x. Now, x is on the bottom this time. Sorry, it's not too long. X is on the bottom this time, so I'm going to multiply that over to get x sine of 33 equals 15. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to end up dividing by that sine of 33. So this is going to be 15 over sine of 33. And so then I'm going to go to my calculator and do 15 divided by the sine of 33. So 15 divided by sine of 33 and enter, and I get 27.5. Okay. All right, we also looked at word problems on these. You just need to be careful at how you sketch your picture. So we're leaning a ladder, okay, so that's going to be the diagonal, and we're leaning it against a house, so that's our vertical component. Okay, so the ladder is 12 feet long. The angle formed by the ladder and the ground. Okay, so here's my ladder, right? Here's the ground. The angle formed by those two things is this right here, which is 68 degrees. Okay, and that says how far from the base of the house did he place the ladder? So base of the house is on the ground. The ladder, the base of the ladder is on the ground. So I'm looking for this horizontal piece here. Okay, so then again, you just decide what's the relationship with all those sides to the angle. Okay, so the 12 is the hypotenuse. The x is the adjacent. So A and H, that's the ka part of SOHCAHTOA. So it's going to be cosine of 68 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So x over 12. Bring that 12 over. 12 cosine of 68. We're just going to type that into our calculator. Okay, and I'm going to get 4.5. 4.95 is going to round up to 4.5. Okay. All right, hopefully that helps you get started on the assignment that is technically due today. Please just reach out if you have any extra questions, but hopefully that helps if we have gone through that a little bit. Okay, hope you guys are having a good time at home and staying safe.